House needs painting, grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mossy Oak and Liqua Molly.
Welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. I'm your co-host, SaraBeth, and you are.
Hello, SaraBeth. Let's get some energy in this. We're doing our podcast and we're having a big day.
Yes, we are.
SaraBeth's got a new hairdo. How do we like her hairdo?
I do.
Like her hairdo.
I don't know. It was a last-minute decision.
Minute decision. I think SaraBeth looks pretty. Her husband, Matt, said, I don't like it. All men are like that. So she's all bummed out because Matt didn't like her hairdo. So don't be bummed out. Let's get excited about our podcast with our new hairdo. I think it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
How many people have to think it looks beautiful? Listen to all the claps.
Yeah, all the claps.
Yeah, you didn't hear them? Oh, you need to
Goodness. All right, well, a few things. First things first, we went to the Bassmaster Classic in Fort Worth, Texas, and that was eventful.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go, Bill. That's a classic photo. We'll get a great picture at the end. I mean, he is so pathetic looking right now. Good little tin man. Look at this little looking head. Jorge. All in the name of fun. You ready? Let's do this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, come on. 1. Feels hard to hear.
I got to watch you get a pie in the face.
Ooh, a pie in the face. Old Bill dance. You know, that was a pumpkin pie, and he rubbed it in my face so hard I didn't really get to enjoy it, but I'd do it all over again just to see Jimmy get the pie.
That was funny. I got to post that full video.
Jimmy and them bangs and that hairdo and all that whipped cream and pie, and Bill was loving it. Now,
I know. I was inspired. I saw Jimmy.
Bill told me, he said, Hanky, I hate to do this to you. We're such good buddies, but I can't wait to put this thing in Jimmy's face. So
I remember he asked the people at Mercury, he said, can I just do both the pies to Jimmy?
Yeah.
He said, you can't do that.
I voted for that. Both of them go to Jimmy.
Oh, I know. That was hilarious. But big congratulations to Easton Fothergill on the win for the Bassmaster.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, I've been traveling a lot, and when I came back from the Classic, there were a lot of people asking me questions about how does it feel and what does it do for your fishing career? What did it do for your career as a whole? What does it mean to win the Bassmaster Classic? And so I've been answering a few of those questions. I thought, let's talk about the Classic. Let's talk about how impactful it is to the industry. Is that not pretty crazy? How many people we saw at Fort Worth at the outdoor show every day?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. The whole weekend, it was filled with people.
It's so exciting, and it really showcases the industry. There's a lot of new product there, and Lou's had a bunch of new stuff they were showing, and I was in the booth with Pro Guide batteries, and they had a whole new lineup of batteries that I hadn't seen that I'm really excited about. And on and on and on and on. Fish Formula's got this new bait pop that works really well. Just on and on and on with all the different products that we got to look at and the enthusiasm. And I wish, that you could walk through there without a whole crowd of people. But one of the highlights for me at this past Classic was I got to get up on the stage with all the guys from the past, not all the guys, part of them, Roland, Bill, Jimmy was not on the stage. He wasn't there that day. Rick Klon. Then later I got up there with Kevin Van Dam and Davey Height. No, Randy Howell. Randy Howell, Davey was MCing. He couldn't make it. I thought Davey was coming, but Davey didn't come. It was Randy Howell, Larry Nixon, Kevin Van Dam, and myself. We missed out on Davey. But Classic winners, and it was really cool. We were asked a lot of questions, and Kevin Van Dam kind of emceed it and did a great job. Kevin's awesome, but he did a great job emceeing that, and he was reading a lot of questions that people had written in, and I thought I might share some of that. And it was an exciting week at the Classic, and what a hero and what a heroic effort on the part of Easton Fothergill to win that thing. And what a shootout it was. Old Trey McKinney caught him good that first day and had a lead, and then Fathergill came on strong. And that last day was a very suspenseful shootout, you know?
Yeah, it was. I was biting my fingernails.
It was exciting, man. It was great. And Easton caught that big fish there. You know, he only had 4, so between he and Trey McKinney, it was going to be a real shootout. And then Easton caught that big guy that last hour and put the nail in the coffin, so to speak. But we're going to talk about all that, and I'm going to try to answer some of these questions, what it means to win the Classic, and what do I think about the state of the Classic? What do I think about the state of the sport? You know, I get that every week. We ask for questions, and again, it always goes right back to forward-facing sonar. And
every time there's so much, so many comments, I guess I'll say, about the Classic this year that have been all negative.
Well, and I don't think that's deserved. I really don't. I think it was a very suspenseful shootout, and but I will tell you this, and we'll get to that. Let's start off and just talk about the history of the Bassmaster Classic and how it came together. And I was talking about, I was on stage with Ricky Clunn, James Hall from Bass. He emceed it, and James is really knowledgeable, and he's good. But we also had Bob Cobb. Bob Cobb was the editor of Bassmaster Magazine, the host of Bassmaster Television for multiple years. And Bob started with Ray, and he told a lot of the history about he and Ray trying to come up with the right name for the Classic. And it was interesting, all the comments. And then we talked about, in the early days, in the beginning, how it all works. So let's start off with that first Classic, and we're kind of reiterating a little bit, so we'll hurry through this. But for those listeners and viewers that have not been a part of this, my podcast in the past, I don't mind rehashing a little bit, but I won't go into all the details. How's that?
That's good. That sounds good. Yep.
You like that, don't you?
I do. I sure do.
Come on, Sarah. In 1971, Bobby Murray and all the 24 qualifiers, that's all that qualified for the Classic the first year. And they got on the airplane, and they were given an envelope, or either Ray opened the envelope that he held in his hand. I'm not sure exactly how that worked. I was not there in 1971, but when they got to a certain altitude, they all got on the airplane in Atlanta, Georgia. They all had their 5 fishing rods and 10 pounds of tackle, and that was a rule for until I quit fishing. That was a rule. You could only have 10 pounds of tackle at the Bassmaster Classic, and you could only have 5 rods and reels. And so they got on the airplane with their 5 rods and reels and their 10 pounds of tackle, and when they got 10,000 feet in the air, Ray either handed them an envelope or he opened and read that they were going to Lake Mead in Nevada, Las Vegas. Here we come. That was a big deal.
I could imagine.
Yeah, and most of those guys had never even heard of Lake Mead, and I don't think any of them had ever fished it. Roland, they did a seminar tour there, and Ray knew that he was going to have the Classic there, and Roland told Ray, he said, I'm going to get up in the morning before we leave to go back to Atlanta. I'm going to get up, and this was months before the Classic, I'm going to go fish out at Lake Mead. I've never got to fish there. Yeah. And Ray said, no, you can't do that, Roland. I got something for you that you have to do. Oh, God. He said, what in the world would I have to do? We never planned on that. He said, oh, yeah. So Ray made up some stuff just to keep Roland off the water because he didn't want Roland to have an advantage. But
go figure.
Pretty crazy how all that worked. But nevertheless, they went to Lake Mead, and that was a suspenseful Classic. $10,000 winner takes all. But for Bobby Murray, he became a household name. For Bobby Murray, he had so many endorsement opportunities, and it changed everything about his status. It gave him value. When you're a professional fisherman and it's a solo career, you are your own commodity. So what you do as far as gaining notoriety is your value.
Right.
You don't have a product. You are your own product. And so for Bobby Murray, it was life-changing. And Ray came back and made a statement before I ever won the Classic. I don't know if he said it immediately after Bobby won in 1971, but after I won the Classic in 1979, at the press conference that we had in Denison, Texas, Ray said, to win the Bassmaster Classic will make you a millionaire. And of course, first place at that time was $25,000 in 1979. Now they did pay more places. It wasn't winner take all in 79. But Bobby Murray was there. Of course, he had won the Classic in 71. He also won the Classic in 78. So Bobby agreed with Ray. It will honestly give you the platform and the opportunity with the notoriety of winning the Bassmaster Classic to become a millionaire. Well, that's a big deal, especially from where I came from financially, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to end up
a millionaire.
Being a millionaire as a result of winning a fishing tournament. I mean, that's a big deal.
Hey, you took making fisherman or being a fisherman as your job completely seriously. You said, you know what, I'm gonna make six figures and more.
Yeah, I have had people tell me, he said, boy, you were smart to launch your career like you did with the vision that you had to see where this sport was going. And that's not, I appreciate the acclimates, and I'd like to take credit for being smart, but I'm a lot like Forrest Gump. I'm not real smart. So I had no earthly idea this sport would grow to that level, and I had no earthly idea of all the endorsement opportunities and where it would lead me.
Right.
But when I did win the Classic in 79, it did rock my financial world. It gave me opportunities that I did not know existed. And it did take work. It wasn't like somebody was going to hand you all this money. It was the opportunity to use that platform to parlay that into a good living. And
right.
So that's what it means to win the Classic. And it's life-changing money. Now, it's big money now, There were a couple of years there, I think, Van Dam's couple of Classics, I think he won $500,000. Over on the FLW side, I remember when Scott Suggs won at Lake Ouachita there in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I was on the stage with Forrest Wood when we handed Scott a check for $1 million for the first place win. So those championships, now they pay big money. Then they did not pay big money. They just paid the opportunity, gave you the notoriety to earn, have an earn out of a lot of money. But Scott, man alive, Scott Suggs to get $1 million check at the end of a 3-day event, that's a big deal, man. And
I'd say that's a big deal to anybody. I'd like to know.
So that's the history of the championship. So Murray started out in 71, and then we went on down the line. Don Butler won the second Classic. Rayo Breckenridge won, I think, the third Classic down at Clarks Hill. Bill Dance finished second. That was the tournament that everybody thought Bill Dance was going to win. He had the lead, and Rayo broke down. His boat broke down, and Roland Martin pulled Rayo in and ended up beating Dance by just a little bit. So Dance got mad at Roland for pulling him in, but it was funny. And Dance told the story. Diane, Bill's wife, said that everything happens for a reason. And Rayo Breckenridge's wife was having serious eye problems and was almost assured without surgery she was going to lose her eyesight. And her surgery was extremely expensive. And when Rayo won that tournament, it afforded him to have the money for his wife to get the eye surgery. And so
that's
Dan
really
says,
sweet.
I look back at that. He said, I'm so glad, as bad as I wanted to win a classic and never did, I would have rather finished second and see Rayo get that money for his wife to have the surgery. So,
That's really sweet.
yeah,
That's really sweet.
It is. Dance is just a class guy, and he really meant that. He told me that in sincerity. He told that on the stage at the Classic last week, or week before last, whenever it was, just a little while back. Time runs away for me. I'm getting old.
It's already been a couple weeks. You got your mind on one thing right now.
Well,
tell me what that is.
We're going to talk about in the next podcast. I'm going to address my addiction.
Yep.
And we're trying to overcome. I'm going through therapy.
I'm going to give y'all a hint. It gobbles and it struts, and you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go sit out there for them.
My son Timmy, who loves to turkey hunt, he asked me one day, he was about 7 years old, he said, Daddy, turkeys, why do they get up so early?
Why do they get up so early?
Why
That's
do
so
they
funny.
get up so early? He's just a little kid. But that was, I tease him about that now. But anyway, going back to the Classic, I'm bad to run these rabbits. It changed so many people. Look at Rick Clunn, who's won 4 events at Van Dam. Look at their status. Ricky was voted by ESPN as the most impactful or the greatest angler debate. He was voted number 1. That thing could have went either way between Ricky and Roland. Roland had won 9 Angler of the Year titles, which, in my opinion, as a fisherman, is a greater honor than the Classic, but in the eyes of the public, not so. So look at Ricky Clunn and his status as a 4-time Bassmaster Classic winner, and so is KVD. Very, very impactful. But there's guys like Stanley Mitchell, who won the Classic at 21 years old. He won the first indoor weigh-in. People say, well, what is the difference between the Bassmasters Classic in 1979 when you won and in 1989 when you won the Classic in Richmond, Virginia? Well, I won the first one in Denison, Texas on Lake Texoma in 79. And we weighed in the parking lot of Holiday Inn.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
It was crazy.
Parking lot.
There may have been 600 or 700 people there, possibly.
In a parking lot?
In the parking lot.
Of
lined
Holiday
up,
Inn.
Watching the big Bassmaster Classic weigh-in.
Fair enough.
Then the next year we went, 1980, Bo Dowden won the Classic. And it was on the St. Lawrence Seaway in New York, and we weighed in Alexandra Bay in a public parking area. And they had it roped off. But we had 2020, Hugh Downs, ABC's 2020 covered that Classic.
Right.
And that was a huge deal because they delivered that coverage to millions and millions and millions of people. So the Classic started gaining momentum about 1974, 75. It really started gaining momentum. They had 75 Classic was at Currituck Sound, North Carolina, and Jack Haynes won that particular event. But it started gaining a lot more notoriety and momentum started. And then in 1981, again, ABC's 2020, and Hugh Downs was there, and he commentated, and it was delivered to millions and millions of people. It was the most aggravating thing in the world because I was the reigning champion. And the first day, the helicopter, the 2020 News helicopter, hovered over my boat, sucking all my plastic worms out of the boat. I had to tie my rods down, and they were just trying to film me, and I'm trying to fish. And the helicopter turbulence was raising my line up in the air. I was about to go out of my mind, and they stayed with me for about an hour and a half. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, the notoriety that 2020 brought for the following year, which was 81, and it was the first indoor weigh-in. So now we go from the parking lot at the Holiday Inn inside an arena where they built an outdoor show. And that happened in 1981. Stanley Mitchell, youngest guy in history to win the Classic at that time, 21 years old.
Right.
And up until that time, I was the youngest guy. I won at 26 years old. Stanley comes around 2 years later and wins at 21 years old. Mm-hmm. And boy, I tell you, that indoor weigh-in really got things exciting. And they had displays of boats and motors and rods and reels and tackle and anything to do with fishing. There were booths and displays and things for people to do, and an indoor weigh-in and the people sitting in bleachers, and it was just life-changing for the fishing world. So now all this momentum starts gaining. Mm-hmm. And so when I won in 89, to go back and answer the original question, what was the difference? Well, I might have had 600, 700 people in Denison, Texas in the parking lot at the Holiday Inn when I won in 79. But in 89, the Richmond Coliseum was packed. You couldn't get another person in there, so they had an overflow room with jumbotrons, and so you could watch it on a big screen.
Wow.
Now, that's a big deal.
That is a big change.
Yeah.
Big change.
And people screaming and hollering, and it just gives you cold chills to think about, to have that kind of a fan base and that kind of involvement versus being in a parking lot at a Holiday Inn with the wind blowing. You couldn't even hear people clap.
Ghetto.
I think there's 4 or 5 Hank Parker fans in the whole crowd.
Probably. You got your 2 people holding up the Hank Parker sign.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, My wife was one of them, and she had a friend she made, I guess. That's how I had my 2 fans. But anyway,
there you go.
In 89, it was a big deal, man. It was Go Hank signs all over the place, and it was big deal. So then that was probably the most, up until that point, of course, I'm biased. That was the most dramatic Classic ever. And it had so much drama because Jim Bitter, who is an awesome fisherman, and Jim has just passed away this past year. But Jim just was an incredible fisherman, and he had the winning fish in hand and put it on the measuring board to make sure it was a legal fish. And that thing slipped out of his hand and fell back in the water. And so when it was all said and done, I won by 2 ounces. If that fish was 12 inches long, he would have weighed at least 12 ounces. So Jim Bitter would have been the 1989 Bassmaster Classic champion instead of Hank Parker. So that was a big event.
Close call. I'd say that's a lot of drama. I've seen all the clips, and it's the most dramatic thing you could possibly imagine. You feel like you're in a stadium with like a superstar.
Yeah,
that's what it was like.
It was. It made me feel like I was somebody there for a few minutes till I realized I wasn't. But I thought I was somebody for a couple minutes standing on that stage. But what was really funny about that, and I've told this story a lot. Ray Scott, who was just the most enthusiastic MC that could work a crowd better. He started this, come on A team, come on B team. He'd have one side of the Coliseum, he would label them the A team, and the second side of the Coliseum, he would name them the B team and draw a line kind of in the middle. So he had half the crowd trying to outdo the other half the crowd. Come on A team, come on B team, and see who could cheer the loudest. So Ray was working that, man. He had that place rocking. So when I came in, I had the biggest bag of the tournament, and Ray said, all right, let's get up here, let's hold these fish up. And I said, no, I'm not going to hold them up. And boy, Ray really got aggravated with me. And finally, he put the microphone down, he grabbed me by my head. He said, you hold these fish up, it's going to be a lot more dramatic. I said, Ray, it's enough drama for me like it is. I ain't going to hold these fish up. And boy, he got aggravated with me. And finally, I said, just put them on the scales. He said, hold them. I said, no, I'm not going to hold them up. Put them on the scales. So after the event was over, Ray came to me and he said, why in the world would you not hold those fish up? I said, Ray, don't you remember 3 years ago, I was in Lake Lanier Super Bass Tournament. Gary Klein had led that tournament all 3 days. The final day, the 4th day of the weigh-in, I came in with the biggest bag of the tournament. And you screamed and hollered and went nuts, and I held up fish, and people took pictures, and we walked up and down the stage, and Dewey Kendrick was the weighmaster. Dewey held up fish, then we put them back in the bag, and I weighed them, or you weighed them, Dewey weighed them. I took the lead by 10 pounds and 10 ounces. No, I took the lead by 10 pounds and 9 ounces. And Gary Klein came in. You didn't weigh them. You didn't hold them up. You didn't take pictures. You left them in the bag. You put them on the scales, and he had 10-10. He beat me 1 ounce.
Wow.
And I said, had I held those fish up and let all those water drops drop off of them and put them back in that bag, I only won by 2 ounces. I'd have never won that classic.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and this classic's a life-changing deal. So that was
You were not playing.
It turned out good. Gary ended up winning the Super Bass that I think I'd have won if I'd have just got to put my fish straight on the scales. But I wouldn't have learned that lesson, so I'd have been holding those fish up, and I wouldn't have won the classic. And the Super Bass, when I won it the next year. I fell 1 ounce short in 84, and then I won it in 85.
Yeah.
I became the first angler to win the Grand Slam, and that was a big deal. But that's a title. There wasn't no money in that at all. It's just bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that classic is life-changing money.
Oh, yeah.
So had I not learned that lesson by losing that Super Bass tournament at Lake Lanier, I wouldn't have done that.
Correct.
So
Correct.
pretty amazing. What you learn the hard way, you don't forget. But I'm glad for that lesson because it helped me a lot.
Well, I don't blame you. A lot of people would have just done what Ray told them to do, thinking that he knows he's the boss man. He knows what's
Big
going
boss
on,
man.
man. You could have just cost
Bass
yourself.
That was his title.
Yeah, that's what it could have cost you $1 million right there.
Ooh,
That's
man,
rough.
I'd be beanie weenies now instead of hamburgers.
Right, 100%. Well, speaking of Bassmaster winners, Ethan Fothergill, he actually has a very interesting story. We were reading his article on the Bassmaster article. What is their
Bass
newsletter
Times,
called? Bass Times. Bass Times, that's what it is. And his whole backstory is actually, it's really touching. It's a little crazy. I mean, the kid, he's young. He's about my age, 21 years old. And, just a year prior of fishing in the Bassmaster Classic, this year, he actually had a tumor on his head that was causing him on his brain that was giving him like massive headaches. He didn't know what was going on. Admitted to the ER, and he had to have this extensive brain surgery done where they were draining this cyst for it to get out in time. And even right after that surgery, he hopped up and he's like, you know what? I was like, I'm still going to fish. I need to fish and get all these tournaments lined up. And he was able to qualify for the Classic. It was a really cool backstory that he has.
If there is a drama story that establishes a hero, Easton Fothergill is a hero.
Fothergill.
Fathergill.
Yeah, there you go.
He is an absolute hero. He went through, I read the story, and I'll be honest, there's so much going on in our world for me today with all the social media posts that we do, the sponsors that I'm still trying to work with, and the places I go, and I don't get to keep up with all the different collegiate tournaments and a lot of the qualifiers for bass. I just don't get to follow this close. So I didn't know that much about Ethan.
Right.
And I was standing in the Lou's booth. He fishes for Lou's. So I was in the Lou's booth when he caught that 8-pounder that put the nail in the coffin the final day. And Ken Eubanks, who is the CEO of Rather Outdoors, and Lou's is under that banner, Ken said, do you know Ethan? And I said, I don't. I think I got to shake his hand once, but I don't really know. He said, let me tell you something. That kid is the class act. He is such a class act. We are so proud that he works with us at Lou's. I'm going to go to the weigh-in and cheer him on. I want to be there for him. Man, that kid has been through so much. Well, I didn't know what he was talking about, to be honest, when he said he's been through so much. I just thought some ups and downs in the fishing world as far as losing some tournaments, but I had no idea we're talking about medical issues. I had no idea we're talking about life-threatening medical issues. And so when Bass Times posted their post on the classic story of Easton Fothergills.
That's it.
I have a hard time with Fothergills, and it's O instead of an A.
It is.
It spins me out.
Yep. I can imagine. It's okay.
But
Sound
I'm
it
gonna
out.
go with Ethan. And man, I started reading his story, and I'll be honest with you, I had to quit reading it, man. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm a dad. And I lived with boys that had dreams. They had NASCAR dreams. I watched my son get airlifted from a helicopter from a racetrack, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. And man, I've been through those emotions. And life just stops when you got a kid that has a life-threatening situation in their life.
Right.
And so having been through some of that with Hank Jr., and also Billy. Billy had some traumatic accidents. And so I'm sitting there reading this story, man. I can't even read. I got tears in my eyes. But Ethan persevered through migraine headaches, had no earthly idea he had a tumor.
Right.
He's out there fishing, and he's taking in stride. Now, let me tell you, this article, and you need to go read this from Bass Times. They posted on the internet, and you need to go read it about Easton Fothergill. He persevered through incredible migraine headaches on his college fishing team because he had such a deep passion for fishing.
Right.
And he got that from his dad. So his dad calls him Buddy. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. He's his bud.
Yeah.
That's what I call my boys. And so I'm sitting there reading that, and I'm just putting myself in how proud his dad is and his mom, you know, how proud they are of that boy. And now he's doing well. He's on the college fishing team. He's got the world by the tail, and all of a sudden, he's a pretty sick kid.
Right.
He's having these migraines that are
debilitating.
debilitating.
The way that he described it in the Times, it was he was sleeping for days. He couldn't get up and do anything. And it was to a point when the people that were closest around him, I believe he said it was friends that he was with at the time that ended up calling the ambulance, and his family, they were out of state. And so his friends called the ambulance, and his family was driving to the hospital not knowing what in the world was going on across state lines.
Yeah,
and
he's in school in Alabama, in the Birmingham area. And his mom and dad live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yes. So they were driving. They said that was one of the scariest moments of their lives was when they got the news their son's going in the hospital. That's terrible.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. So here this kid is. He's fishing, and he has these migraines that are debilitating. I mean, they just are horrible, but he pushes through it. And so now he's got an opportunity. He's qualified to go to the Bassmaster College Bracket Series, where he has a chance to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. So he is so excited. This is a dream coming through, and he gets so bad that he's been in the bed for 3 days. His mom's watching his cell phone, realized he's not called anybody for at least a day. And so she knows he's sick. She called his college roommate and said, please get him to the ER. They find out through a CT scan that he now has a tumor the size of a tangerine. And this thing is fixing to rupture. So they got to do
drain it.
Brain surgery now, not even time for his parents to come from Grand Rapids to Birmingham.
No.
He's got to have surgery. So going through all that, and if this thing ruptures, he's probably a good chance it could be lethal. And if it doesn't rupture, just the size of this mass taken out of his brain could leave him with a lot of brain damage.
Right.
So, I mean, we're talking life-changing
Very scary situation. Very scary.
Situation. Yeah. So he goes through all that. Surgery's successful, and I'll have to
Thank
say
God.
he did it at the University of Alabama Birmingham Medical Center. So shout out to them. The surgery was successful. Now, when he recovers, it ain't like a month, and the tournament's going to happen.
Yep. I read that in the article as well, and he said, he's like, I got to fish it.
I'm going. If I get out of this hospital, I'm going. Well, wait a minute. You got to take antibiotics for 20 weeks. I'm going to take antibiotics, but I'm going to go fish. So he ends up persevering through incredible odds and qualifies to go to the Bassmaster Classic.
I know he gave his mama a stomach ulcer. The whole time. Imagine. No.
Can you imagine?
No, and I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, and I think that was for the Classic at Grand Lake last year. Right. And so then he won 2 Bass Elite tournaments this year. Not elite tournaments. He won 2 Bass qualifying tournaments this year to go to the Classic.
Yep.
So here he is, going through all of that, going to college, having brain surgery, fighting migraine headaches, and living out his dream and winning the Bassmaster Classic.
Correct.
I'm going to tell you, if there is a heroic story in all of sports, it's like Jim Valvano's Cardiac Kids winning the NCAA basketball championship years ago. This is a heroic story. So I hope that people are going to appreciate his sacrifice, his determination, his perseverance, and his talent to win this thing and not get sidetracked by what devices and how and what methods he used to catch fish.
Or saying he's unskilled, because if anything, I think that boy, if there's one word to define him, I'd say it would be a fighter, 100%.
He is a fighter. Mike Iaconelli, never give up. Boy, you can say that about
Ethan, for sure, 100%. I have his entire bass. How would you say his bass career line? His bio. I have it all listed out. So he started Bassmaster College Classic bracket victory. That was October 2023. It says, as a senior at University of Montevallo, Fathergill won the Bassmaster College Classic bracket on Milford Lake in Kansas. The victory secured him a spot in the 2024 Bassmaster Classic on Grand Lake of the Cherokees in Oklahoma. And then he had major success in the Bassmaster Opens in 2024. So it says, following his college success, Fathergill clinched 2 Bassmaster Open titles. These wins not only demonstrated his skill, but also earned him an invitation to join the Bassmaster Elite Series. And then that was what got him to qualify for the 2025 Bassmaster in Texas.
He is my hero. I am so thankful that he pulled that off. Now, I love Trey McKinney. Trey's a little firecracker, boy. He started out, he took the lead. Then Easton came back on and caught a giant bag of fish that second day. And propelled, I think Trey only caught like 15 pounds. But, everybody said, well, what happened to him? Hold on a minute. He caught 5 bass that weighed 15 pounds. That's a 3-pound average. That's a pretty good bag of fish.
Yeah.
These guys ripped these fish. That's a staggering amount of weight that they caught to win that event. And so Trey came back that last day and had it really going on. And Fathergill only had 4. So it was going to be close, There was a fish or two that they felt like Trey may have kind of underestimated a little bit. So it was pretty tight. And they still had an hour to fish. And so the cameras are going to shut off out of the boats, and you're not going to know what's being caught that last hour. And right before they shut those cameras down, Easton caught that fish that weighed 8 pounds, and that put
He
the
sure
nail in
did.
the coffin. And I was sitting there watching that jumbotron right there at the Lew's booth, and it was exciting. And of course, all the Lew's guys, they're really pulling for him.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And but they knew the history. I didn't know the history, or I would have been jumping up and down, turning backflips, screaming
Right.
for him. But it
That's
was
funny.
a shootout, and there were a lot of guys up there, and it could have gone either way after the first day. But then the
Right.
second day, they kind of margined themselves where I think Easton had like a 9-pound lead going into the last day.
He did.
That's a tremendous lead, you know. So
Yeah, so that's very hard to beat. You would have to make one of the biggest bags to kind of beat that and catch up.
well,
you know what
but
I mean?
then there comes Trey, and he catches an 8-pounder and a 7-pounder, and all of a sudden he's got a big bag. Now he's got 5, and Easton only had 4, so it's getting to be a shootout. But then again, he caught that big guy, and he hung in there and persevered, and what he's been through, and to see that kid up on that stage.
He deserves it. He
Man,
100%
does he
deserves
ever.
it.
And his dad, I know his dad and mom were about to explode with pride and happy for him. And golly, bum, that was just so great.
It really was. I think everybody in the tournament was a fighter for sure. I feel like it was a good match, regardless of all the negative comments of people. I think people just aren't used to seeing forward-facing sonar as much, especially like we've said in previous podcasts. Forward-facing sonar is kind of boring to watch on TV, especially when the camera guy, which, not to point fingers at the cameraman here, but if you're not getting creative content or like little different angles of somebody that's doing forward-facing sonar, or you're not getting the screen or anything, you know, people are going to be bored. It's going to be boring. So, you know, I understand that. I feel like you should look at it from a different perspective versus just attacking the fishermen for not having talent.
It was a mixed bag. It was not a forward-facing sonar
it was
exclusive event at all.
Right.
It was a mixed bag. These guys were doing a little bit of everything. They catch them on jerk baits, they catch them on jigs, they were catching on bladed jigs. They were catching on a little bit of everything.
Right.
So there was some forward-facing sonar, no doubt about it. And there were some fish that were up in the trees that they could see. So it was exciting, and it's good. And so the sport's alive and well. It was a very, very successful outdoor show. Fort Worth, Texas was an awesome host.
Yes.
And I think the sport's in good shape.
I think it is too, especially meeting everybody, seeing all the new things that are coming up and coming in the sport. Some of these new products coming out as well. They're pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty
be
cool.
good. Catch a fish. I love to catch fish.
I know you do. I know you do. I'm learning. I'm getting there.
All
I'm getting
right.
there.
So we want to give a big shout out, and I hope everybody will go to Bass Times and go to the
Yes.
Post and read about Easton
Fothergill.
I
Yes.
still struggle with that.
It's all right.
F-O-T-H.
F-O-T-H.
Yeah,
Yes,
come
you
on.
got it. You got it.
But what a great historical event that has, the books have been closed, and a kid that was under so much adversity rose to the top and took the victory, and I could not be more proud. I've called him and left him a voicemail, but he's so busy. I know his phone is burning up. But I feel like he'll call me back, and I can't wait to hear from him. And I just want to congratulate him personally. So I've left him a voicemail waiting on a call back.
That's awesome. Well, I think with that being said, I think that wraps up this week's episode.
All right. Well, hey, bass fishing is alive and well. Get out there and go fishing and catch one. We want to thank Lick-Wamali and Mossy Oak for participating and being a part of our podcast and supporting us. And we want to thank you for listening and viewing. And keep writing those questions and
we'll give the answers.
There you go. Come on.
There you go. Any topics as well, anything you want us to touch on that we haven't already touched on, you can leave that in the comments below. And as usual, all of our links will be in the description below.
All right. So tell them bye, SaraBeth.
Bye. See you guys next week.
Thanks for being with us, guys. We'll see you next time. God bless you.